You ever feel like a pawn in a chess match you never signed up for? Stop right there. Right now. Your intentions, your fears, your weak spots are being scanned by colleagues in conference rooms, by exes scrolling your Instagram, by a manager sizing you up at Starbucks while you wait in line. The world isn't a charity. It's a hunting ground, where information is the weapon that kills careers, relationships, and reputations. If you keep pretending ignorance is innocence, you will keep getting eaten. First, smash the romantic lie that radical honesty is always a virtue. In a country that worships authenticity, think Silicon Valley startup culture, LinkedIn mission statements, influencers selling realness with perfect lighting. Naive openness is treated like a discount sign. While you disclose, others map. While you air your values like an American flag, predators in suits and smiling faces file your vulnerabilities away like intel. You lost that negotiation at the dealership because you showed your budget first. You were ghosted after the third date because you revealed your deepest insecurity. Someone at your office started a whisper campaign because you bragged about a promotion before it was official. These are not coincidences. They are the cost of being readable. Honesty without armor is a currency the ruthless will gladly spend against you. Understand this as a philosophy. Being good or trusting without discernment is not morality. It is a structural weakness. It's the difference between walking into a Yankees and Red Sox game in a white shirt and expecting to leave unscathed. The world doesn't owe you protection because you reopen Furty-hearted. It feeds on the naive. Machiavelli said it plainly, it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Harsh. Yes, useful. Absolutely. This isn't a call to cruelty. It's a call to realism. If you don't learn the rules others already exploit, you choosing to remain prey. Now hear me when I say, the shadowy art of reading people is not a manual for villainy. It's survival strategy. In New York boardrooms, on subway platforms, at PTA meetings in suburban Atlanta, the rules of human exchange are the same. Information is advantage. This art is a skill set. Observation, pattern recognition, emotional calculus. That converts vulnerability into invulnerability. Think of it like cybersecurity for your social life. You wouldn't leave your bank account password as password 123. Why expose your inner code to every hungry passerby? The shadowy art teaches you to encrypt your intentions, to detect scans before they happen, to anticipate moves like a poker pro in Atlantic City, reading a telltale-filled opponent. Picture Machiavellian pragmatism repackaged for modern life. Niccolo Machiavelli didn't invent malice. He observed power without sentiment. Centuries later, his cold clarity fits perfectly in a corporate elevator or a family Thanksgiving where alliances shift with a phrase. It is much safer to be feared than loved, he warned. Not because fear is noble, but because fear is effective. Translate that into your life. Respect, not softness, keeps you safe. Be strategically opaque. That's not inhuman. It's functional. Consider a startup founder pitching VCs in San Francisco. She doesn't reveal her burn rate. She reveals vision. She controls what others can use against her. That control is the heart of this art. The fundamental choice is stark: remain blind or become a conscious player. Ignorance is a choice. Every time you shrug off a gut feeling in a meeting, every time you accept flattery without scrutiny, you elect to be seen, measured, and moved. But knowledge flips the script. When you learn to read micro-signals, patterns, and motives, you become harder to manipulate and easier to steer. Imagine walking into a networking event in Chicago with the ability to know, within minutes, who's a gatekeeper, who's thirsty for approval, who's a silent threat. You'll talk differently. You'll reveal less. You'll move like someone who owns the room because they own the map beneath it, and the promise. They want to know what hit them. Real influence is invisible. It's not a shove. It's a pressure so subtle that choices look self-pressure generated. You guide decisions without a trace. The best negotiators in Manhattan don't smash tables. They nudge perceptions until the other side believes the concession was their idea. That indetectability is your safety net and your sword. It's how you deflect gossip on a college campus, reroute an aggressive client call from escalation to agreement, or keep a manipulative ex from poisoning your circle. It's how you become unassailable in interviews, boardrooms, first dates, courtrooms, wherever the human game is played. This knowledge is scarce by design. It belongs to a few who prefer strategy over sentiment, to the people who read books by Sunday Zoo between business books, who notice tone, tempo, and micro-tone expression. The way a chef notices salt. It's not for the faint of heart. If you want to keep being readable on your public Instagram and candid in every group chat, then turn away now. But if you want to join a smaller circle of strategic minds, people who walk into a room and leave it altered without ever raising their voice, then pay attention. So what next? How do you go from victim to scanner, from exposed to enigmatic? You start by mastering the fundamentals, how people leak themselves, the clues they hide in plain sight, the rhythms of deception and truth. We break the silence of the body, trace the motives behind the smile, and teach you the mental architecture that makes you unreadable in return. Next, you will learn the keys to decode the silent language. Everyone speaks, but few understand. Prepare to see what 90% of the room refuses to notice, because that sight will be the edge that changes everything. The words lie. The voice misleads. But the eyes, the shoulders, the tiny twitch at the corner of a mouth, those are the honest witnesses. You ready to read the open book every person carries across their chest, even when they stage their cover? Good. Because nothing in life, board meetings in Manhattan, first dates in Brooklyn, negotiations at a Chevy dealership in Des Moines, matters more than your ability to see what others refuse to show. This is where the game is decided. Start with a hard fact most people shrug off like pop culture trivia. More than 70% of human communication happens outside of words. Call it the Moravian shorthand, or call it observation. The result is the same. If you only listen, you are missing the story. The science of the nonverbal is not soft or mystical. It's measurable. Psychologists like Paul Ekman catalog 7 micro-expressions: anger, fear, disgust, joy, sadness, surprise, contempt, and these flash across faces in fractions of a second. Imagine a CFO pitching growth metrics, and, for one blink, a look of contempt appears when someone suggests a risky acquisition. That millisecond is the truth. You need to see it. Micro-expressions are involuntary. They betray unfiltered emotion before the conscious mind can script a response. A salesperson at a Best Buy might smile while their eyes tighten in disgust at a product. Flaw: a partner on a second date may speak about future plans, while their lips quiver in fear. A coworker who says, "I am fine," may press their tongue against the roof of their mouth, a tiny gesture that screams otherwise. These signs last less than half a second. You will miss them if you re-scrolling on your phone or rehearsing your response. Practice. Spend one commute watching faces on the subway. Freeze. Frame conversations in your head. You are training your eyes to harvest data. But emotions are only half the map. The body speaks in paragraphs, posture, gestures, the direction a torso points. A person who leans in with shoulders squared is offering attention. A body turned away, feet pointed toward the exit, is already off the table. Posture is an intent meter. Think of the body as the wiring diagram of motive. Open chest and relaxed limbs suggest safety and access. Crossed arms, tightened jaw, and a tucked chin broadcast guardedness and resistance. This is why negotiators watch orientation. The person whose feet are pointed toward the hallway will concede sooner than the one facing the table. Recognize the categories. Illustrators accompany speech. They add emphasis, like a quarterback slashing a hand to show direction. Adapters reveal anxiety, nail biting, nose rubbing, hair twisting. Regulators control the rhythm. Eyebrow lifts, micro. Pauses that keep the conversation on track. Each gesture is a fingerprint. when gestures and words align. Congruence. Trust exists when they don't. T. Incongruence. Alarm bells should ring. A CEO saying, "We re-confident," while their hands make small, evasive strokes and their jaw tightens. That, not confidence. That is fabrication. Establish a baseline. In every conversation, set a mental baseline by observing behavior when the person is relaxed. Deviations from that baseline are your signal for stress, deceit, or change. The eyes, the most honest tormentors. Contact, avoidance, fixation, blink frequency. Each tells a story. Someone who avoids eye contact out of discomfort differs from someone who avoids it to conceal. Context is the key. Watch patterns. Rapid blinking often accompanies cognitive load or anxiety. Prolonged stare can be a dominance play or a sign of deep interest. Pupils dilate when interest spikes. Yes, your biology betrays your attraction and your arousal. And while bright lighting or cold coffee can alter pupil size, consistent dilation coupled with forward lean and open palms is a reliable indicator of genuine interest. The direction of gaze can hint at cognitive processes. People glance up when constructing visual images, sideways when accessing auditory memories, down when they search internal feelings. Down, to treat these cues as forensic certainties. That, sloppy. Treat them as probabilistic evidence. In a courtroom, you wouldn't convict on a single fiber of hair. In social intelligence, you don't draw ultimate conclusions from a single glance. You collect evidence, micro-expression, posture, gesture, eye pattern, tone, baseline shifts. The profile clinches when the signals converge. Let me give you a practical drill. Next time you watch a political interview on cable, Fox, CNN, whatever gets you riled, mute the audio and watch faces. You will see a millionaire mayor flash contempt at a tough question. An advisor express fear before a canned answer. A hostess posture tighten just before a trap. That training ground. Or watch a reality show like The Apprentice with the sound off and try to catch lies. If you can practice in public, practice privately, film yourself delivering a story. Then watch it back. You'll spot your own tells. The little hand sweep when you lie about being on time. The throat clear when you invent a statistic. Self-awareness tightens your armor. Important note, never weaponize observation recklessly. Use it to protect yourself, to anticipate danger, to craft influence subtly. Reading people makes you efficient. It makes you less vulnerable. Combine it with discretion, patience, and strategic silence. The point is not to become paranoid. It's to become precise. The world will continue to throw casual predators at you. Colleagues who leak, dates who ghost, clients who gaslight. Your edge is the ability to see the pattern before the attack lands. Now that you have tools to decode the body's silent language, you are no longer a passive listener. You are an active scanner. But this is only the surface. The true advantage comes from moving past symptoms into causes, from reading the face to mapping the motive. Next, we strip the FAC8 and hunt what drives a person, desires, fears, and soft underbellies. Prepare yourself to become a true mental scanner. In the next block, you will learn to map intentions and expose the weaknesses everyone tries so desperately to hide. The body can scream, the face can confess, but the mind, that's the vault. Stop assuming a smile equals sincerity. You want to dominate interactions. You must first map the terrain of motivation, what people truly want, what scares them, and what will make them crack. Think of it like urban reconnaissance in Manhattan. You don't storm a building without knowing its wiring, entry points, guard shifts, and blind spots. The human mind has the same infrastructure, needs, triggers, biases, and once you know the layout, you control the route. Start with motivation as your lens. Forget philosophy fluff. Use a pragmatic model. Maslow gave you a ladder. The modern Machiavellian red is this: survival, status, control, connection, legacy, Everyone is chasing at least one of those at any given moment. A junior exec who brags about hustle may secretly be starving for status. A colleague who rails about fairness might be fighting for control over a project. Label the likely driver and watch behavior through that filter. When someone repeatedly talks about security, "I need stability," don't take the phrase at face value. Ask, security of what? Financial safety, emotional predictability. Title. Their answer reveals which lever you can pull, offer recognition, create a predictable schedule, or threaten uncertainty, depending on your aim. Identify emotional triggers like a seasoned interrogator. Triggers are the pressure points that produce a predictable reaction: shame, humiliation, envy, abandonment, rejection. Watch for the constellation of signals when a trigger is touched: tighten jaw, a sudden laugh that doesn't reach the eyes, a story pivot back to themselves. Example, at a networking event in Brooklyn, a mid-SUI level manager lights up when a CEO mentions leadership presence. That, as a trigger tied to status. A compliment about decisiveness will open them. A question implying indecision will shut them down. Triggers are fast and dirty indicators of leverage. Record them, mentally. Catalog who reacts to what. That catalog is your map. You will not discover motives in a single exchange. Build a baseline, your baseline rule. Observe. Done. 2. Assume. Spend the first 5 minutes of any interaction as reconnaissance. Notice natural speech tempo, habitual gestures, laugh frequency. Is she the person who normally jokes to deflect? Does he usually keep his hands in his pockets? Deviations from baseline are signals. A CEO who suddenly avoids hand gestures during a budget talk is lying, or at least uncomfortable. A date who usually orders boldly, but suddenly opts for water, is hiding something. Track patterns across multiple meetings. 3 data points make a trend. 5 make a pattern. Now the scanner of weaknesses. Think of weaknesses not as moral failings but as structural vulnerabilities in a building. Cracked foundation, rusty beam, loose wiring. In people, these are insecurities and blind spots. Fear of failure, need for validation, entitlement, inflated ego. Each manifests predictably. The insecure overfundly prepare and overfundly explain. The validation addict overshares achievements and fishes for praise. The arrogant person interrupts and gaslights criticism. Watch for compensatory behaviors. Arrogance to mask insecurity. Sarcasm to mask shame. Those are the seams you tug to test integrity, or to nudge someone where you want them to go. But collect quietly. Never tip your hand with immediate exploitation. Understand cognitive blind spots. People are poor self-tethered perceivers. Confirmation bias, self-tethered serving attributions. Dunning-Kruger. These are your allies and theirs. A colleague who cannot see their own mistakes will defend them loudly. A leader with Dunning-Kruger will amplify certainty to silence dissent. If you want to influence, craft your approach to their blind spot. Feed a leader. Ego an alternative framed as self-tuvite affirming. This move will highlight your decisiveness. And they'll adopt it. Want to protect yourself. Expose no contradiction that allows them to confirm their bias against you. Time to probe, but like a skilled journalist. Sundagem, the art of asking without seeming to ask. Use indirect questions, hypotheticals, and tiny tests. Swap blunt. What? Your weakness, for tell me about a time you had to change course. Watch the framing when people explain a past pivot. You learn coping mechanisms, pride points, and pressure thresholds. Use the hypothetical gambit. If our budget was cut by 30% tomorrow, what would you prioritize? Their answer reveals values under stress. Master the power of silence and calibrated pauses. The American conversational habit is to fill gaps. Commercials, airports, elevators all scream for noise. Use silence like a scalpel. Ask a question and wait 5 seconds. Not polite 2-second fillers. 5 to 7 seconds. Most people panic and start adding crumbs of truth to fill the void. In negotiation, ask why that number. And blink. The pause will force clarification, confession, or a better offer. Silence is cheap and surgical. Mirror and paraphrase with surgical precision. Subtly match posture, tempo, and key phrases, but delay by 2 to 3 seconds so it feels organic. Paraphrase content back in a slightly different light. So what I am hearing is that recognition matters more than title right now. Watch the micro-response. A relaxed nod, a brief smile, or a tightened throat. That micro-response is a truth detector. If you paraphrase and the person corrects you, you just uncovered a nuance. Immediate gold. Collect intelligence over time. Discreetly note past grievances, preferred phrases, reactions to praise, and stressors. In a corporate setting, overhear water cooler comments. Track who defers in meetings, who gossips, who isolates. That quiet accumulation creates a dossier that makes your moves predictive. With a pattern in hand, you will forecast actions, who will flip on a tight vote, who will panic under revenue shortfall, who will sell out if ego is stroked. One last warning, mapping minds is power. Power without restraint corrodes. Use this skill to protect, to position to survive, not to crush for sport. Machiavelli taught adaptation, not wanton cruelty. You are a strategist, not a monster. Read motives, test weaknesses, ask questions that reveal truth, and then decide whether to neutralize, ally, or walk away. The map is in your hands. Learn it, refine it, and you will predict behavior before it happens. How to move pieces on the board so quietly, even the players think it was their idea. You have the eyes and the map, but knowledge unused is vanity. Now you learn to move people without leaving footprints, to influence so subtly that the target believes the choice was theirs all along. This is not magic, it's surgical social engineering. You will orchestrate decisions like a conductor, moderates an orchestra, hands behind the scenes, results front and center. First, the principle of subtlety. Loud manipulation gets seen, exposed, and punished. Ever watched a salesman on a Times Square kiosk use pressure tactics? People recoil. Contrast that with the polished account executive at a Salesforce demo who never forces a sale, but positions options so the buyer selects the package that nets the rep the biggest commission. The difference is framing. You present 3 options. The middle one is your win. You seed possibilities in conversation, so your preferred outcome appears as their rational conclusion. This is how startup founders pitch to VCs in Soma. They don't command. They cultivate belief, give autonomy, and they sign their own consent. Guide decisions by aligning perceived self-tumbed interest with your objective. People act for their reasons, not yours. Frame your ask in their language. To the control for the seeker, sell certainty. To the status hungry, sell prestige. Example. In a corporate budget meeting in Chicago, you want approval for a headcount. Don't beg for empathy. Demonstrate how hiring will protect the CFO's quarterly targets and highlight a PR win that will reflect on the CEO. Suddenly, the hire is protecting their interests. You win because you translated your desire into their calculus. Reciprocity is a blunt and reliable instrument, not charity, currency. Give a small, targeted favor that creates an obligation stronger than you imagine. Hold the elevator for an influencer at a conference. Send a curated article to a hiring manager that solves their current headache. Compliment a competitor's strength in front of them, and watch pride pull them into cooperation. Reciprocity works because Americans, from NBA coaches to community board members in suburban Ohio, are wired to return value. Use it strategically. Invest small to extract large returns. Plant ideas rather than plantations. Seed thoughts via questions, anecdotes, or third-party endorsements. At a negotiation table in an investment firm, instead of declaring a number, ask, "What would it take for this to feel like a win for you?" That invites them to quantify their own concession. Or whisper a half-Tevin story about another client who saw great results with X, and let curiosity do the rest. People adopt ideas they believe arose organically. Your influence is the root, their adoption is the fruit. Now build shields. Reading people isn't just defense, it's armor. Identify the manipulator's signatures, excessive flattery that feels timed, melodramatic victimhood timed to meetings, gaslighting that redefines facts, or triangulation, inserting a third party to provoke jealousy or pressure. In the office, watch the colleague who showers praise before extracting overtime. At the family Thanksgiving, watch the relative who plays wounded to redirect guilt. Recognize pattern. Name it mentally, then neutralize. Neutralizing can be surgical and cool. Don't engage theatrics. Counter gaslighting with a documented fact. Dates, emails, texts. When someone weaponizes guilt, respond with a calm boundary statement. I hear you, but I won. Accept manipulation. Often, the manipulator expects a bite. When you don't give it, their power deflates. Maintain a poker face, not cold, but unreadable, like a Wall Street trader hiding a winning hand. Indifference, when deployed deliberately, becomes a mirror that reveals the predator's impatience and error. Develop mental resilience as a muscle. Daily practices. Limit social media, scrolling that fuels comparison and reactive anger. Rehearse neutral responses to provocation. Sleep and exercise to keep cortisol low, so you don't react from the gut. When your mind is steady, bait loses its hook. Remember, a manipulator's weapons are emotional reactions. Remove the reaction and their tactics are impotent. Redirecting is another defensive tool. If a conversation veers into pressure or trap, change the metric. Convert emotional bait into logistical queries. Table that and revisit numbers next Tuesday with data. Ask procedural questions that put the manipulator on the defensive. Or use a curious, open-to-ended question that forces them to specify. Vagueness collapses under scrutiny. In short, move the chessboard. Don't play their match. Finally, the art of social strategy, creating environments that favor you. Build networks like a general assembles alliances. Identify who holds influence, who is impressionable, who is loyal under pressure. At a tech meetup in Austin, the connector who hosts after-parties is your target. Invest time with nodes of power, mentors, gatekeepers, informal leaders. Their goodwill multiplies your options. Camouflage your approach to blend in. Adaptive behavior, what I call chameleonism, is not deceit. It's fluency. Speak the industry dialect in meetings. Adopt the tempo of the group. Mirror cultural cues. A subtle accent in language. A reference to a local sports team. Mentioning a mutual college tie. These small matches build rapport faster than any forced sincerity. But time your mimicry. Delay imitation by a beat so it feels organic, not robotic. Cultivate an aura of competence and mystery. Competence is earned through clarity, punctuality, and decisive action. The small things. Mystery comes from omission. Reveal results, not process. Share the outcomes of your work, not the entire blueprint. People respect those who deliver and wonder about those who don't overshare. That combination keeps you sought after and unreadable. Anticipate and neutralize conflicts before they bloom. Use your reading of motives to preempt friction. Offer recognition to a rival before they feel threatened, or reassign a task to preserve someone's status. Convert potential enemies into allies by addressing their core interest before they feel attacked. The strategist who looks 2 moves ahead changes the game without raising noise. Remember this: the master strategist is invisible. The best influence looks like free will. You will orchestrate, shield, and adapt until your environment bends without anyone spotting the hand. That is power disguised as normalcy. Use it to protect what matters: career, reputation, freedom. Use it to open doors quietly. Use it to survive. And never forget, subtlety is lethal, silence is loud, and the unassuming mind is often the most dangerous. You arrived. Not by accident. You sat through the reckoning, absorbed the anatomy of deceit, mapped motives, learned how to move without leaving prints. Now we cement that transformation. Hear this like a command. You are no longer a readable statistic on someone else's scoreboard. You are the apex thinker, a title earned by practice, discipline, and cold, ongoing calibration. That title requires more than skill. It requires ritual. Every morning, treat your mind like a field officer checks gear. Before a mission, scan your inbox with intention, note tone, tempo, and who uses urgency as a lever. Walk into a meeting in Manhattan or a negotiation in a San Francisco VC room with a checklist. Baseline observed. Likely triggers identified. Escape routes planned. Mastery is routine, not flair. Reaffirm who you are. Repeat this silently. I am the reader, not the read. Make it non-negotiable. You will become the person who notices the small slip of the tongue from a Brooklyn startup founder when she says, "We on track," while her fingers drum a staccato beat. A tell of stress. You will be the executive in Chicago who spots the anxious CFO's micro-expressions and neutralizes an attack by reframing metrics before gossip metastasizes into crisis. Identity is a muscle. Train it by turning observation into habit. Once a day, pick a public scene. An airport lounge, an NFL tailgate, a coffee line at Starbucks, and catalog 5 tells. Then review. Then adapt. Your mind is a factory. Its product is prediction. But being the apex thinker also demands inward inspection. The Machiavellian mirror. You must map yourself with equal ferocity. What vulnerabilities do you hand out like flyers on a college quad? What social media posts announce needs that predators will exploit? If your ego is a magnet for praise, you will be nudged into traps that look like flattery. If your fear of loss drives you to panic decisions at the first sign of scarcity, you will be outmaneuvered by calm actors who manufacture scarcity like a Broadway producer crafts hype. The strategist who cannot see their own seams will be torn apart by those who can. So audit yourself. Track your reactions to criticism. Measure how dopamine from a LinkedIn like changes your posture. And cut what broadcasts your soft underbelly. Next, live as an enigma. True indetectability is not hiding everything. It's selective revelation. Give people just enough information to satisfy curiosity without supplying the map. Think of a high-stakes poker player in Atlantic City. They reveal timing, never holdings. They construct narrative, never confession. In practice, that means you share outcomes, not methods. You tell a potential client that a restructure increased revenues, but you don't narrate every spreadsheet that led there. You present confidence, but you do not dramatize fear. Cultivate an aura of competence by being reliable. Show up on time in Zoom calls. Deliver briefs that are concise and decisive. And reserve commentary for substantive moments. Mystery is not artifice. It's discipline. Create shields. Your new life is as much defense as offense. Build systems that stop manipulators cold. Document agreements in email after conversations. Summarize verbal commitments in writing, and use procedural responses to emotional bait. When a colleague deploys gaslighting, counter with timestamps and facts, not fury. When a relative at Thanksgiving plays the wounded martyr to guilt you into concessions, answer with a calm boundary and a plan. I consider this, and we'll revisit on Monday with specifics. This removes theatrics and forces the predator into procedure, where they are weakest. Now, convert knowledge to a lifestyle. Influence is sustained, not sporadic. Plant seeds repeatedly. Position ideas through third parties and chance comments in group chats, so they bloom as their ideas. Use small, targeted favors. Deliver a timely article to a hiring manager at Amazon, or an introduction to a connector in Austin. And the obligation you create will exceed the effort you invested. Build alliances quietly. A mentor in a bank in downtown Minneapolis, an influential organizer at a Brooklyn co-SUI, a promoter who runs the After 50 party at XSW. Invest time with nodes of power. Social capital compounds. Be relentless about resilience. The world will test you with cheap tricks and elaborate cons. Sleep, diet, and training are not lifestyle aphorisms. They are weapons. A rested, well-fed mind detects nuance. A drained one reacts. Limit dopamine traps. Cut endless doom scrolling. Schedule time away from the noise. And rehearse neutral scripts to diffuse provocation. Train your emotional reflexes like an athlete warms up. Deliberate exposure to mild stressors in controlled settings. A tough conversation with a peer, a mock negotiation, will desensitize you to real attacks. And finally, adopt a warrior's ethos of continuous adaptation. Remember Machiavelli's cold clarity. Fortune favors the prepared and the adaptive. He wrote about the necessity of bending with circumstances, and his ruthless line about fortune being like a woman, often misquoted into barbarity, translates into strategy here. You must be assertive and proactive in shaping your fate, not passive. Stagnation is the strategist as death. Each interaction is data, each failure, a lesson. Keep files, mental or literal, on patterns you see. Revisit and refine them quarterly. Teach someone else what you've learned. Instructing cements mastery. This is your last order in this program. Act. Knowledge without application is vanity. Applied knowledge is power. Today, before you scroll past this, make a pledge. Write it down. Say it aloud. Then prove it. Start with 3 actions. 1 observation exercise today. 1 boundary you will enact in a vulnerable relationship. And 1 strategic favor you will give to build leverage. Don't wait for motivation. Manufacture it. If you accept this, prove it publicly. Comment below with the affirmation, I am the reader, not the read. I am the master, not the pawn. My mind is my weapon. Like this video to mark that you done playing small. Share it with 1 person you won. Let remain vulnerable. The one you know who needs awakening. And subscribe to keep sharpening the blade. This is not an endpoint. It's just the beginning of a campaign. Soldiers sharpen their tools daily, will you?